The Unlit House. Episode 5. The Code. Narrated by Atlas. The following is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously to tell a story. Nothing in this series represents real individuals. Listener discretion is advised. Previously, in the Unlit House. 4 doors in, if you're just walking up to the house, is what you missed. There's a man named Atlas. He wears a suit by day and fills a notebook by night. Every entry ends the same way. 3 affirmations he doesn't believe yet. I am enough. I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. Thank you. That's the ritual. That's the lock. In October of 2020, he wrote Day 1 because he couldn't see. In December, he wrote 11 words at 10:38 at night that undid every wall he'd built. I know I love her, but I am not holding on to her. Her. The one whose name doesn't get said in this house. And last week, the visit. December 2019. His mother pulled him into the one room without cameras and handed him the truth about his father. The lies, the women, the money, the gun that was a prop. A sentence no mother should have to say to a son. And the reason the lights in that house never go off, his demons can't stand the light. That's the line the whole universe is named after. Now. I know what I promised you at the end of that one. New Year's Eve, Bay's room, the phone in my hand, the call that never came. That night is coming. I don't break promises to you. Just to women. But before I can put that phone in your hand, I have to jump you forward, almost a full year. Past the breakup you haven't heard yet, past the spring, past the summer, into the fall of 2020, when the notebook was running and the rotation was running and I was running hardest of all. I had a roster, and not one of them knew they'd made the team. But as the saying goes, somebody's got to take one for the team. Because before you can understand the code that ended a love, you need to hear about the code that almost ended a brotherhood. Pay attention. This one covers ground. Blink and you'll miss it. There are 3 codes in this story. 1 was a rule between brothers that nobody ever wrote down. 1 was 6 digits on a door that I gave to the wrong woman. And 1 belongs to a woman whose name we don't say. By the end of tonight, you'll have all 3. 2 of them I'll explain. The 3rd one stays where it's always been, between her and me. Let me tell you about my brother. Act 1. The Bond. I met Horace the day I moved into the building. I was getting my room assignment, 1st floor, and somewhere behind me I hear a voice go off, "How the fuck does he get the 1st floor, and I've been doing this job since before he was a thought?" I turned around and there was nobody there yet. That was just the legend preceding him. He showed up a week after me, in a cowboy hat. I'm not going to explain the cowboy hat. He never explained the cowboy hat. Some men arrive with a story, and some men arrive with a hat, and you find out over the next 2 years they're the same thing. He was a senior partner. I was a junior partner. Same pay, and he'd remind you about the difference anyway. 2nd day, there was some organized team activity somewhere. A court, a field, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. He was the only face I recognized in the whole building, so I found him and asked where we were supposed to be. He looked at me and said, "Do I look like I fucking know?" Best friends ever since. I'm serious. That was the whole ceremony. 10 years between us. I was 33, he was 23. And it didn't matter because we were the same animal, 2 introverts. He didn't need entertainment and I didn't want to talk. So we just soaked up each other's space. Every morning before the sun, we'd smoke a smig. That's what we called them, cigarettes. We started on Newports, but they sat too heavy, so we moved to the Marlboro Red Blacks. The strong ones, the ones that make you grateful for your lungs by reminding you they exist. You heard about them in episode 3. Now you know whose pack it was. Almost a pack a day between us. And every night, before bed, the balcony by his room, 2 camp chairs, 1 sky, separate plumes of smoke going up like they were trying to reach somebody. He had his somebody, I had mine. We didn't ask each other who. We ate together at dinner, same spot most nights. He always got his food to go, in and out, no eye contact, a man allergic to small talk. I sat down, I ate. I got to know the ladies behind the line. They started hooking me up, extra portions, the good pieces, the plate they made for people they liked. Horace watched that for about 2 weeks, watched the gains I was getting, and then quietly started following my lead. That's how he operated. He'd talk shit at full volume, and then copy your homework in silence. We left for the gym at 2100 and got back by midnight. Younger men's hours. We had the energy then. He'd been with the company 6 years. I was on my 3rd. He was my guide for anything the job buried in fine print, and I don't know what I was for him. The older brother he could outrank on paper and never once outrank in a room. We were inseparable. The building knew it. The company knew it. Which is why, when it went quiet between us, everybody felt the temperature drop. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Act 2. The entry. You rotate eateries on the weekend. It's nice to keep a variety in rotation, and that word is going to land later, just watch. That's not a metaphor, that's just facts. But stay with me, because everything in my life eventually becomes a metaphor. 1 weekend meal, 1 Saturday. I locked eyes with her across the line. You've heard her name in this show already, Miss Parker. Episode 3. She let herself in, she caught a message, she walked out. I told you that part first because that's how memory works. You remember the door slamming before you remember the door opening. Tonight, the door opens. She was 5 feet 2 inches, maybe 5 feet 3 inches. Chocolate skin, soft as lotion. She smelled like sugar, the kind you want to huff. Lips glossed and popping like that Willow Smith record. And she had a look, I'm telling you, Vivica in her prime. We started talking, and it was one of those conversations where the words don't matter, because the frequency is doing all the work. She was closing. I was in the way. She was going to get in trouble because of me, and she kept talking anyway. And I want you to know what I did with all that momentum. Nothing. I got scared. Me. The man who's been reading rooms since he was 19. I walked back to my room, stewed for 20 minutes, talked myself into it, walked back out to the parking lot. Doors locked, lights off. She was gone. I didn't know her car. I didn't know her name. I had nothing to search and nobody to ask, because I'm a private man, and asking around is how private men become public men. So I did the only thing I could do. I asked the universe. You laugh. But I want you to notice something. This was the same season I was writing The Partner I Seek is Also Seeking Me every single night. And here I was, asking the universe for a woman whose name I didn't know. The notebook was working on me in ways I hadn't agreed to yet. But something I would learn later in life, be careful what you ask for. The devil can hear you too. Weeks went by. And then one day she was just there, filling in at a cafe I ate at. The universe had made its delivery and was waiting on the signature. This time I didn't stew. I asked what she was doing later. It was a Sunday. I know it was a Sunday because the Cowboys lost, which narrows it down to almost every Sunday, and I was at Carl's place watching the afternoon game. Carl, the standard, the only man above me I ever fully respected. Married, family man, and still, let's say Carl understood the game, even if he'd retired his jersey. She hit my phone. What are you doing? Nothing, watching the game. Can I come over? I told Carl I had to bounce. He looked at me the way married men look at single men leaving a football game early. Half judgment, half prayer request. She showed up in a crop top and the kind of shorts that are less clothing and more punctuation. We sat on the couch in my room, a couch I had commandeered from somewhere, don't ask. And I turned on the game and we made small talk and I kept my cool, because I've learned that wanting something too visibly is how you lose it. And then she looked at me and said, "You know what I want." I said, "What?" She told me, directly. No punctuation needed. I had about 0.2 seconds to decide who I was going to be. We'd been flirting for weeks across a serving line, and now she'd called my bluff on her own couch invitation. So I stopped being cool. Episode 1. I told you this isn't that kind of story, and that it's not that kind of story either. Well, tonight it's that kind of story. You've been patient. You've earned the film. I slid off that couch and ate her like an all-you-can-eat buffet. No plate, no manners. A man who'd been standing in line for weeks and finally heard his number called. Silk was playing in my head the whole time. You know the song, "I Want to Get Freaky with You." She had her fingers gripping my head and her heels in my back and the game still running behind us. And I remember thinking, the Cowboys lost today and I am still somehow the winningest man in the state. Then I stood her up, bent her over the arm of that commandeered couch and worked her like a math final I had not studied for. Flipped the problem over, showed every step, solved for X until X tapped out. And she gave it back, better. That woman handled me like she'd apprenticed under professionals. I'm saying there are women on the internet who do this for a living who would have watched her and taken notes. We pulled, we bit, we got loud and then got quiet and then got loud again. Two liars finally telling the whole truth the only way either of us knew how, with our clothes on the floor. Raw, untamed, instant. Like we'd done it in a previous life and were just picking up where we left off. And afterward, in the break, both of us breathing like we'd been chased, she said it. "I want a threesome. 2 guys. Now." I want to pause here because in episode 1 I told you this moment in 2 sentences and moved on. 2 words, 2 men, and I made it happen in 0.2 seconds. That was the trailer. Here's the film. I'm a button pusher. I test people. I say things to see if people are all talk, because I am not all talk, and just choose when to display it. And in that moment, I felt tested. She'd put a card on the table, and she was watching to see if I'd go fish. My first thought was Carl, and my second thought canceled the first. Married, family, too far, and you don't bring that to a man's doorstep no matter how much he claims he's with it. There's a respect line. Even I had a respect line. But across the hall, Oris had just moved into the room across from mine. The universe, again, with the placement. I walked over, knocked. He's mid-game, talking shit before the doors even open. And I asked him, casual as a weather report, "If you were offered a threesome, would you do it?" "Hell yeah. You know I'm with the freaky shit." And the rest of the sentence was all volume. I said, "Prove it." He laughed. I said, "I'm serious. She's waiting on us, right now." And I watched my best friend's face run all 5 stages of grief in 4 seconds. The shock, the math, the search for an exit, the realization that there was no exit because it was Sunday evening and he had just said hell yeah at full volume, and now it was time to find out if he was all cap or about that action. He stood up. "Let's do it." That was September of 2020. Write the date down. The recap will need it later. I used to tell people that night was between 3 people and God. God has declined to comment. So I'll comment. We walked back across the hall and closed the door. And I'm going to give you this the way it happened, because you need to know what this arrangement was before you can feel what it cost. I'll let him go first. That's not generosity, that's ownership. I sat down and watched the game like a gentleman, while my best friend found out I am not a man of all talk. Checked the score, checked the couch. Man of the Year, both categories. Then she said she wanted both of us, and both is what she got. He took the front, I took her from the back. Then we switched, then we rotated, had her from both ends like a Chinese finger trap, and nobody was trying to get free. Positions like a pizza kitchen, tossed, stretched, flipped, folded. At some point, the afternoon game had become the Sunday night game, and not one of the three of us could have told you the score of either. I finished first, emphatically, and went back to the game because a man needs his fourth quarter. He handled his own closing arguments, and when we were all spent and I was done hosting, she followed him to his room, and I thought that was the night. But it was not. Near midnight, she came back, wanted more, knocked on my door with her whole body. And he came too, and the two of us stuffed that woman like a Thanksgiving turkey until the sun started threatening the blinds. She was loud. The whole floor got the broadcast, and my private, introverted, keep-my-name-out-your-mouth self did not care even 1%, which is how I knew something rare was happening in that building. We did not sleep. At all. I had somewhere to be at 6:30 in the morning, and I arrived there hollowed out, standing next to another hollowed-out man, both of us upright on nothing but adrenaline and secrecy, grinning at absolutely nothing. Monday we told Carl. And Carl, married, godly, grill on Sundays Carl, said, and I quote, "Why didn't you all call me? I told you, even the Standard has a basement." And Monday night, when we thought we'd earned an early bedtime, she came back. Again. Taking turns now, him, me, him. I'd finish and walk her to his door like a valet. He'd receive her like a man being handed overtime he didn't request and couldn't refuse. Then he'd walk her back, talking about hell nah, and I'd look at him like the return window had closed. 3 in the morning. We rallied that woman back and forth like a Wimbledon final. Advantage, deuce, advantage. And she kept calling for new balls. That week didn't have days. It had shifts. By midweek, I was pumping like gas cost $10 a gallon, resentful but committed. And that's what I need you to sit with. Not one wild night. The consistency, week after week, a schedule, a rhythm. She'd come over, I'd knock on his door and ask if he wanted some, like offering a plate. If he said yes, she'd see him first, then come see me. Boundaries, somehow, structure, somehow. The most functional relationship in my life that fall was a rotation between 3 people who never once said out loud what it was. What started as one reckless Sunday became the thing none of us had a name for, but all of us kept showing up to. You heard that sentence in episode 1. Now you know the schedule behind it. It stayed exactly that good and exactly that regular. Until it wasn't. Hold that. And somewhere in those first weeks, I said the thing to Horace. One time, out loud. Standing in his doorway, probably holding a smig, definitely not making it a ceremony. You can hit any time, as much as you want. Just let me know first. Because I found her. And I might want some too. That's it. That's the code. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody repeated it. It got said once, and then it became load-bearing. The way the realest rules in your life are the ones nobody laminates. An unspoken rule that got spoken exactly once, which is the only time an unspoken rule ever needs. Let me know first. That's all I asked. Not permission. Notification. Because here's what the code was actually protecting. And I didn't understand this myself until it broke. It wasn't protecting her. It wasn't protecting the arrangement. It was protecting the check-in, the thread between him and me. The code was never about the woman. It was about the knock on the door. Knock, knock. And somewhere in there, because she was around, because it was easy, because I've never once been careful with access, She ended up with the code to my room, 6 digits on a keypad. She could let herself in when I was at work, sit on my commandeered couch, wait for me, talk about her problems. I gave a woman the code to my door and never once considered giving her the code to anything else. File that. The stinger's coming back for it. Act 3. The violation. Here's how it broke. Not with a confession, not with a fight. With a parking lot. I pulled up to the building one evening after work, and her car was there. And I knew it was there for him. And I hadn't gotten a call, hadn't gotten a text, no knock, no heads up. The one thing. I want to be precise about what I felt, because it would be easy to call it jealousy, and it wasn't jealousy. She was, and I'm not proud of this sentence, but this is the show where I say the sentences I'm not proud of. She was a hole for me. That's what I had reduced her to by then. I wasn't in love. I wasn't even in like. I was in dropping dick off delivery mode. 10 toes down, same day service. So it wasn't the sex. It was the silence. He didn't let me know. The code had one clause, and he skipped it. And then, a little while later, I saw them, out, in public, a restaurant, walking, together, in the daylight, in front of people. Let me tell you why that one landed like a round. I never took her out, not once. We never went in public. I bought her crab legs one time, and she ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, and I held that against her like a grudge with interest. The most I ever gave that woman was a walk at night where nobody could file a report. That's who I was. Everything I had, she got indoors, after dark, off the books. And here comes my brother, giving her the daylight. Like the quote from the good book, what you do in the dark will come to the light. The thing I never gave her. The thing I never gave anybody in that season. And I couldn't even be mad at the right thing, because the right thing to be mad at was me. So I froze him. We stopped speaking. No morning smigs, no dinners, no 2-100 gym, no balcony. The 2 camp chairs sat up there empty, getting rained on. We were cordial when the job required mouths to move, and that was it. The whole building could feel it. 2 men who had been inseparable, now orbiting each other like a divorce neither one would file first. People asked. I gave them one word. Violation. Didn't explain it. Didn't need to. Carl knew the whole story, and Carl, because Carl's love language is making it worse, turned it into a taunt. He'd catch Horace at the pool, in the hallway, wherever, and just say it. Violation! Goofy with it, singing it sometimes. My heartbreak became this man's morning entertainment. And I want to tell you what I was actually feeling during the freeze, because the notebook knows, and there's no point lying to you if the notebook already has it in writing. I missed my bro more than the pussy. That's the whole episode in one sentence, so let me say it again, slower. I missed my bro more than the pussy. The rotation I could replace. This is the reckless era. The deck was full. I was dealing off the bottom. But the balcony, the 2 chairs, the man who didn't make me talk. There's no rotation for that. And here's the sentence that took me years to be able to write. I would have blessed off on it if he had just talked to me. That's it. That's all it would have taken. Bro, it's getting real with her. I want to take her out. I'd have said bet. I'd have handed her over like a jersey retirement. I knew she was better off with him because he had actual affection growing and I had a punch list. He would have taken her to daylight. I was going to keep her in the dark and grade her in a notebook. He was the better man for her, and the violation wasn't that he became it. The violation was that he went silent to do it. You know what's funny? And by funny, I mean the kind of funny that costs you something. The whole time we weren't speaking, both of us were still creeping with her, separately, secretly. She was rotating between 2 men who exchanged jerseys after a game, who weren't talking to each other, which, respect, honestly. She ran a tighter operation during the freeze than we ever ran during the peace. And that's how the name happened. See, I had her in my phone under an alias. You don't put the real name in the phone. The real name pops up on a lock screen at the wrong angle at the wrong goddamn time. And now everybody's in your business. I needed a name that would mean nothing to anybody looking over my shoulder, and mean nothing especially to Horace. So in my phone, she was Ms. Parker. And one evening, the freeze is still on, we're barely nodding at each other. We're in the same space, and my phone is face up because I'd gotten lazy, and it goes off. And it goes off again. And this man, who has not spoken a full sentence to me in weeks, looks down at my screen, looks up at me, and says, "Bro, who is Ms. Parker? Explain." We don't keep secrets. We don't keep secrets. The man who broke the code, citing the code. The audacity was so clean, I almost applauded. He skipped his own check-in and then pulled rank on mine. And I could have made it a fight. Instead, I explained. "Yeah, it's her. I've been seeing her." And he smirked. Because he'd been seeing her too. And I already knew, because I'd caught them once, out, when he didn't see me. We'd been running the same silent route for weeks, both of us thinking we were the only car on the road. Two grown men, best friends, not speaking, sharing a woman neither one would claim, both holding the same secret in the same building, on the same floor. We both smirked. And something in the freeze cracked right there. Not because anything got resolved, but because we finally got caught being exactly the same. And that's why you know her as Ms. Parker. It was never her name. It was her cover. The show inherited my phone's paperwork. Even her name in this story is something I built to keep from getting caught. Now, a small scene in the daylight, because the contrast is the whole point of this show. That same December, first week or so, I went to the casino, pressed suit, prayed in the parking lot. Yes, men like me pray at casinos. We just aim it at the wrong tables. Wrote about it in the notebook that night, the praying, the wanting. I won. Big. Daylight Atlas was a high roller. Squared away, pressed, blessed, the kind of man they comp drinks for. And that same week, Night Atlas was running a silent rotation through a frozen brotherhood with a woman filed under a fake name. Both of those men wrote in the same notebook. Both of them closed the entry the same way. I am enough. I forgive myself. Even when the lights are on. You know the rest of the line by now. Act 4. The exit. The freeze ended the way it started, with him doing what I couldn't. He came to me. Straight up, no ceremony, cowboy hat energy even without the hat. Fuck it, I'm done with her. Your friendship means more to me than some girl. And we locked back in. That same week, Smigs, dinners, 2,100 gym, balcony. The chairs got dried off, the building exhaled. I want to sit on his sentence for a second, because it's going to matter at the end of this episode. Your friendship means more to me than some girl. My brother looked at a woman he had real, growing feelings for, the first one in the whole rotation era that either of us actually felt something for. And he put her down. For me. He walked away from the thing he wanted because the brotherhood outranked it. Keep that. Hold it in your hand. Because now watch what I did with the woman he gave up. I kept her. He passed from then on. I'd offer code fully restored, and he'd wave it off. Done meant done for him. But she got closer to me, and it came out that she wanted more than the rotation. She wanted to date. And Christmas was coming, and I was, hear this in my exact tone, bored. So I dated her. That's the word I used for it. What I actually did was keep a woman on retainer. And I'll be honest about what kept the arrangement alive on her end, since we're being honest about everything else. She kept coming back like the Mummy franchise, and I know exactly what the artifact was. But it wasn't just that. She liked our conversations. She liked how I processed. She disagreed with most of what came out of my mouth because I'm out of pocket. but she stayed in the room for it. Some visits she just wanted to hunch, her word, not mine, and I'm not proud of the fact that the cook grease smell of her work uniform did something for me, but it did. And I'd give her the D like I put the D in Downtown. And somewhere in that stretch, our sex found a new gear entirely. That girl became a weather event. First one I'd ever met. Soaked my sheets like a Super Soaker 3000. Horace confirmed the phenomenon independently. We compared notes like scientists. And almost immediately, because this is what I do, I started building the case file. Her smell was off, her teeth, her posture. I was finding things. No, let me tell the truth, since that's the whole product here. I was manufacturing things, inventing reasons to be annoyed because the annoyance made what I was planning feel like her fault. I took her to Bath & Body Works and bought her scents like a man fixing a car he's already listed for sale. She'd come by when I was at work. She had the code, remember? And be sitting there on my couch with her problems, and I'd perform listening. Some nights I'd tell her to go see Horace, put on a little show of generosity, just to buy myself hours of my own room back. That usually didn't even work. She'd come back. And meanwhile, her entered the chat. You know who. The one we don't say. And I need to tell you something about that name because it's not just me who won't say it. My brothers banned it. Horace hated when I said her name. Carl, too. If it came out of my mouth on the balcony, Horace would physically wince like I'd said the villain's name from those wizard books and something dark was going to show up on the balcony with us. Don't say that name, bro. They watched what one syllable did to my whole operating system, and they legislated. So in this house, she stays her. She gets a name when we get to the beginning, and the beginning is a different series, a different city, a younger fool. Not yet. But that December, she started texting. And here's what I have to give Miss Parker with full respect, years late. She knew, immediately. Didn't read a message, didn't need to. She was suspicious before there was evidence, because a woman can feel it when she's sharing a man with a ghost. She knew I wasn't healed. She knew there was somebody with a hook still in me. She just couldn't see the water the hook came from. Christmas Eve, 2020. My tradition. Jack Daniels. The one night a year I really let myself go out of character and act 12. All the classics on. COVID had the city locked down. Nobody could go out, so Horace hung out. Whiskey, music, my brother, a warm room in a cold season. Honestly, a good night. One of the last uncomplicated ones. You already know from episode 3 what I wrote at 1:12 that morning. Tired AF. And now you know everything that sentence was carrying. Christmas morning. The text came in. I saw the name and turned the phone face down. That move. You know that move. Everybody listening to this show has either done that move or dated it. And Miss Parker was sitting right there and saw the flip and asked, and I said, it's no one. No one. 2 words doing the work of 40 lies. She got loud. She walked out. And I want to confess what I felt when that door closed, because this is the part my brother would later put a verdict on. I felt relief. Good thing I hadn't bought her anything, I remember thinking. And that's when I have to tell you about the pen and the notebook. She wanted to journal, like me. She'd watched me with the notebook, this notebook, the one this entire show is read out of, and she wanted what I had. A practice. A place to put herself. So at some point I'd bought her a pen and a notebook as a gift. I never gave them to her. They sat there, wrapped in their potential, until she walked out on Christmas morning, and then I regifted them. To somebody else. I don't even fully remember who. In a series built out of one man's journals, sit with what I just told you. The woman wanted the one genuinely healing thing I had. The only honest thing in my whole room. I bought it, held it, and handed it to someone else. She asked me for the cure, and I regifted it. Now the part I've owed you since episode 3. Back then, I told you about December 27th. She let herself in, caught a message, needed proof, and I played a solid hand, no game this time. I told you I'd been outrunning my own deceit for weeks, and she caught me on a slow day. That was the story I told you. It's the story I told myself. There are no slow days. I don't have slow days. I have plans. And the plan, from the Christmas text forward, was this. Be the dickhead, openly. Reply to her without covering it. Let the phone sit face up where face down used to live. Create the argument, build the conditions. Engineer a situation where she feels in control, where she reaches the conclusion, where leaving me is her idea, so that I never have to be the one who did it. That's the manufactured exit. That's the play. She walked out of my room feeling like she finally stood up for herself, and I let her have that, because her having it was the whole design. I was happy when she left. Happy and horny, which is why, yes, I kept calling for a while after. The architect kept trying to visit the building he demolished. She wasn't having it. Until the day she stormed in. She still had the code, that's how recent the wound was, and announced she had better options. Now, by this point, I had the dirt bike, bought it that fall. You've heard the engine in this story before. And I should mention, since we're being thorough, Bay was still in the picture too, out in, let's just say, far, far away. The long game. A phone line I kept warm the whole time. Some overlap, let's call it. I had to be strategic with all of this. That's a whole other episode. The plane ticket, the bike, the almost. Her night is coming. So Miss Parker is standing in my room telling me she has better options, waiting for the reaction. Hurt, jealousy, a fight, anything. I said, I'm about to go ride my dirt bike. You want to come? She said, I'll go ride someone else. I said, bet. Let yourself out. You know the door code. I didn't say. She knew the way in. She could find the way out. That was it. That was the ending. She left, she blocked me, and eventually she left the restaurant entirely. But not before the aftermath got expensive. She talked. People at my favorite eating spots knew what I was, and my whole plate hookup infrastructure, the extra portions, the good pieces, years of charm equity, dried up. I lost the girl I didn't want, and the food I did. Tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. One more scene. The verdict. Time passes. I've moved on. There's a new name in the phone, Ladybug, and her story is its own night, so I'll only give you the piece that belongs to this episode. It wasn't working with Ladybug. I knew it early, and instead of saying so, because saying so is a thing honest men do, I went back to the blueprint, the same one. Go dry, go dull, underperform on purpose. Build the off-ramp and put her hands on the wheel. We're on a virtual date. Pandemic romance, her with her wine, me with my scheme. And it's going bad on purpose. And Horace is in my room the whole time, off camera, hearing every beat of it. And she gets to the destination I built for her. Maybe we should just be friends. I performed, hurt. Gave it a beat of silence. Took it like a man. Took it like a man who had written the scene himself. Because he had. We hang up. Horace looks at me. You good, bro? Fuck yeah. And he sits with that for a second, and then I watched it land on him in real time. He goes, wait, so you're purposely doing shit to get them to break up with you? Yep. And why do you think Ms. Parker left? I said. And my brother, the man who broke the bro code and owned it inside of a season, the man who gave up a woman he had real feelings for because the friendship outranked her, looked at me like he was seeing the actual floor plan of me for the first time. And he said, that's wild. And diabolical. He didn't laugh. That's the part I need you to hear. Horace laughed at everything. He didn't laugh at this. He said, "That's how women get fucked up, bro. Men like you are how women end up fucked up for the next man." And I said, "Hate the game." Yeah, hate the game. That was my whole rebuttal. 4 decades of my father's blueprint, 1 year of my mother's revelations, 3 months of affirmations about the partner seeking me. And when my best friend held up the mirror, everything I had was hate the game. Here's the symmetry, and then I'll let you go. Horace violated the code once, 1 clause, 1 time, and it aided him until he chose me over her, out loud, to my face. He had a code, he broke it, and he repaired it, because to him the code was real. The code was load-bearing. I never violated our code. Perfect record. Notification given, clearance requested, brotherhood protocol followed to the letter. And I had no code at all with the women. Not 1 clause, nothing load-bearing. Every rule I ever gave a woman was scaffolding for an exit I was already building. My brother broke 1 rule and carried it like a wound. I kept every rule with him and ran a demolition company through everybody else. The man who violated the code is the only man who ever caught me violating mine. That's why this episode carries his name on it in a way. He earned the verdict. He paid his dues to the code first. Wild and diabolical. Put it on the poster. I want to end on the balcony, because that's where everything in this episode actually lived. 2 camp chairs, 1 sky. The Smigs going up in separate plumes, same direction. Me and my brother back at our post, the freeze over, the woman gone, the verdict rendered, the code restored. Stronger, honestly, than before it broke. Some things are like that. Some things you have to violate once to find out they were sacred. You never brought her up again. I never brought up the restaurant. Carl retired the taunt eventually, the way Carl retires anything, slowly and with encores. And me? I sat up there under that sky, sending smoke up at a star for a woman in another time zone, with my brother beside me, not asking who. That's the picture I want you to keep. Whatever else I was that winter, and you've now heard exactly what I was, I had that. 2 chairs, a brother who chose me over a woman, and would have had every right not to. The friendship was the only relationship I didn't sabotage that year. The only one. Before I close the book tonight, the codes. All 3. I promised. The first code was ours. Let me know first. Broken once, repaired for good. That's the bro code. And it survived because both men in it eventually told the truth. The second code was 6 digits on my door. I gave it to a woman I never took to daylight. She could enter the room anytime she wanted, and never once got into anything else. That's what access without intimacy looks like. A keypad that opens a door to a man who isn't there. And the third code. The third code belongs to the one we don't name. It's not on a door, it's not a rule. It's numbers that meant I love you in a room full of people who couldn't know. Her half, my half. You complete the count. You complete the love. 1 woman had my code. 1 woman was my code. And on New Year's Eve, a different New Year's Eve, the one I promised you 2 weeks ago, the one before all of this, the one that made all of this, I sat in Bay's room with a phone in my hand, waiting for my half of the count to come back to me. 40 seconds. That's how long it took to end. Next week, I finally take you there. I am Atlas, keeper of every code but my own. And even when the lights are on, they're off. Next week on The Unlit House. Better Now. We go back. New Year's Eve, the one episode 4 promised you. Atlas is in Bay's room with the phone in his hand, and the woman we don't name doesn't call. 40 seconds. The code that meant everything. The silence that ended it. and a song 2 years earlier in a country far from home that told him it was already over. He just wasn't ready to hear it. She thinks she's better now. So does he. One of them is lying.